Hello Year 10, this is hopefully, the last ever video lesson. Well, it's the last ever video lesson you'll get in Year 10. Hopefully you won't need one in Year 11. Last week we started looking at the poem Extract from the Prelude. Quick reminder, this is, as it says, it's an extract. It's a bit of a much longer poem that Wordsworth spent his life writing. It was kind of the story of his life from boyhood to adulthood to old man, and it was published after his death. So this particular bit of the poem is kind of his late childhood, and he is out walking in the countryside, and he comes across a boat, and he unties the boat. He's feeling a bit sneaky about that, and he starts rowing down the river. And then in the distance he sees a mountain, and he starts getting a bit carried away, and he starts rowing towards the mountain. Now there's two things here. Remember, if you can remember, Edmund Burke's theory of the sublime. This poem won't make sense really without it. The Romantic poets, of which Wordsworth was one, felt that nature was capable of causing the strongest possible emotions that humans are capable of. Stronger than love, stronger than hate, stronger than grieving. Nature could cause that. So that to you it will appear weird, but to Wordsworth and his readers, it's perfectly possible an encounter with a mountain like this could blow his mind. And the second thing to remember is that running throughout the poem, you've got this conflict in Wordsworth's mind. It's autobiographical, sorry, I should have said, based on his boyhood experience. The conflict is he in harmony with nature, enjoying nature, or is he in conflict with nature by, for example, by stealing the boat and rowing down the river? So is nature in conflict with humans, or is nature something we are in harmony with? That's the conflict running throughout the poem. Right, back to the top of the poem. When from behind that craggy steep, so he sees, this is the mountain he sees in the difference. Craggy, it's kind of rocky, it's uneven, it's wild. Till then, the horizon's bound. So up until this point, he could just see the horizon. Now beyond the horizon he can see this mountain, and he uses repetition to describe it. A huge peak, black and huge. So huge, the repetition of huge emphasizes the size of it, it dwarfs everything else, and black makes it seem fairly threatening, fairly ominous, fairly dark. As if with voluntary power, instinct upreared its head. Now mountains can't lift their heads up, so he's personifying the mountain here, and it's saying as if the mountain with voluntary power stuck its head, stuck the top of the mountain up into the sky. So it's kind of emphasizing how the mountain dominates the skyline, and also by personifying it, it's making it seem like the mountain is kind of an intimidating presence. I struck and struck again. So he's kind of he's rowing harder and harder towards the mountain, and growing still in stature. So the mountain is getting bigger the nearer he gets to it. The grim shape towered up between me and the stars. The grim shape is the mountain. Look at the language used to describe it. Black, huge, grim. So they're all fairly kind of negative terms that make the mountain seem intimidating and daunting and full of horror. And also he says it towered up between me and the stars. So there's nothing other than him, the mountain and the stars. So the mountain appears to dominate the skyline even. It's that big, it's that powerful, almost overshadowing the stars, reaching up into the sky. And still, for so it seemed, with a purpose of its own and measured motion like a living thing. This is a simile here, like a living thing, and also personification, because it says the mountain has a purpose of its own. So not only is this mountain mysterious and daunting, it seems to have a kind of nature and personality that is beyond his ability to understand it, and he feels insignificant next to this mountain, but it does appear to have a kind of sinister purpose, the mountain, when he personifies it, and it becomes more and more threatening the closer he can get. And now so he was rowing towards the mountain, and now look, it's strode after me. So obviously the mountain doesn't have legs. It didn't just get up and chase him. This is personification, but now he feels almost like the mountain is hunting him. Then with trembling oars, so he's now nervous, he is in shock, he is in fear. So as he rows, his hands are shaking, he turns around and he starts to flee from what he has seen, flee from the mountain. He's been terrified by what he's seen. Remember Burke's theory. You'll be sat there thinking it's just a mountain, for heaven's sake, but for the Romantics, a mountain and nature were capable of provoking such strong emotions. So with trembling oars I turned, and through the silent water stole my way. Stole my way makes it appear that he's trying to get away as quietly and as quickly and as silently as possible. Back to the covert of the willow tree. So he takes the boat back to where he took it from. Covert is like a sheltered, safe place. So he's back here. He's away from this threatening version of nature that the mountain presented, and now he's back to the safe, the kind of safe, beautiful side of nature. It's what we'd call the pastoral. Pastoral means all to do with the beauty of the countryside. And remember, at the start of the poem, the countryside and nature is presented as something beautiful and green and silent. And that's what we'd call the pastoral, when nature is described as something peaceful and beautiful. Then halfway through, that's broken by this mountain. But now he's back to the safety of nature, the beautiful version of nature, pastoral. And through meadows homeward went. So he's left the boat behind, and now he is making his way home in grave and serious mood. Grave means he's in a very, not depressed, but he's in a very serious mood. He's been very affected by what he has seen. But after I had seen that spectacle is an interesting word. A spectacle it's kind of a spectacle. It's something that you would say normally like a firework display is a spectacle. So it's something that has an impressive visual display. So that's he feels he's seen something that will stick in his mind. And as he then goes on to say, for many days my brain worked with a dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being. So he's unable to get the image, the thought of the mountain out his brain. My brain worked. And this line here, with a dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being. So there's a sense he's experienced something that he doesn't understand beyond his understanding of nature and human life. And that's what unknown modes of being. That he's seen something that he didn't know existed and can't explain. Over my thoughts there hung a darkness. This is a metaphor. So he is unable to dismiss what he's seen. It has a lasting mental impact on him. Call it solitude or blank desertion. So it leaves him feeling lonely, and blank desertion may be his previously peaceful, his view of nature as something peaceful and beautiful has deserted him now, and nature now is something threatening and dark and sinister. And that is reinforced by the next few lines. So no familiar shapes remain. So in his head, in his appreciation of nature, in his understanding of nature, there are no familiar shapes, no pleasant images of trees, of sea or sky, no green fields. So his previous vision of nature as something pastoral, something beautiful, something pleasant, visually appealing is now gone. and it's replaced by these huge and mighty forms. Dark, shadowy objects. Of course, that means the mountains, but it's also huge and mighty, dark, unexplained thoughts in his mind that do not live like living men. So again, it's the idea that what he's seen is something beyond human understanding, something that the world now carries a threat which he didn't know existed before, and he doesn't quite understand. Like living men move slowly through the night, but through the mind by day, and were a trouble to my dreams. So he's having nightmares about what he's seen. He's lost his innocent and simplistic view of nature. And nature, he has concluded here, the huge and mighty forms like living men, again personified the mountains. Nature, he's realised, is much, much more powerful than him, than human beings, and than anything he realised before. Okay, we'll go on to the exam summary next.